welcome to Cara's Fast Natural English podcast, the podcast for English learners who want to improve their listening skills by actually listening to and understanding fast conversational English. Okay, so today's episode is the Thanksgiving episode, and the reason I'm doing a Thanksgiving episode a week after Thanksgiving is because I just want to clear something up to do with Thanksgiving. So, you know that I live in France, and what happens is people ask me, don't you celebrate Thanksgiving as a British person? And I'm like, no, don't you know the history of this thing, people? Admittedly, I was actually at a Thanksgiving party last Saturday because I have an American friend here who organises them every year, which is really cool, and she invites, friends and things like that. In fact, most people that were there were actually French, not American or British. But anyway, that's what happens when you organise Thanksgiving parties in France. So, this is this celebration where, we basically sit around the kitchen table, the dining room table for a whole afternoon and eat loads of turkey and other yummy things, turkey, sweet potatoes, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, and really, really good desserts that we don't find in the UK, like pumpkin pie, pecan pie, things like that. Really delicious. So I was very happy to celebrate. Well, basically the celebration is just eating all that food. But yeah, so I want to clear up why British people don't celebrate it unless they're like me and they have an American friend. So basically, Thanksgiving, for people that don't know, Thanksgiving is a holiday that celebrates the arrival of the Pilgrim Fathers in the US. Well, it wasn't the US at the time. We're talking about the early 1600s. So you had these really religious people called the Puritans or the Pilgrims, and they wanted to celebrate their religion and, leave England to do that. So they decided to go to the New World, as they called it at the time. It wasn't the USA yet. So the story is that there were some, these colonists, these pilgrims who left from Plymouth in the southwest of England on a ship called the Mayflower, and then they ended up arriving in the New World, and they arrived in this village that they called Plymouth, in honour of the Plymouth that they'd left in England. And well, the story is, I guess the legend is that they had this meal together with the native Indians that they met, and it was kind of like an autumn harvest feast. I don't know if they actually did eat turkey or pecan pie or pumpkin pie. But in any case, this is a story behind Thanksgiving that everybody tells, that apparently, it was these settlers moved to the New World, arrived in what we now call New England, that part of the United States on the eastern coast, had this meal with Indians, and then, but it didn't actually become a national holiday until 1863. And although the Puritans, the Pilgrims, were really religious, I don't think it's really a religious holiday nowadays. In any case, when I researched it a bit, it doesn't really have a religious element anymore. It's just a time of year where people get together and they, with friends and family, sit around the table, eat way too much. I ate way too much last Saturday, again, as happens to me every year when I get invited to Thanksgiving. So that's why Thanksgiving is an American thing. I mean, sometimes in the UK, maybe we did this at school, I can't really remember. There is this thing called the Harvest Festival of Thanksgiving, but that's not an official celebration. That's just something that some people do sometimes. It's kind of religious. It's to do with, giving thanks for the harvest. So occasionally you might see, that could lead to confusion, but really when we talk about Thanksgiving, it's talking about, it's a holiday to do with these settlers arriving in what we now call the USA for the first time. So British people don't celebrate it. It's just Americans, 4th Thursday of November. they get together and eat their turkey and, commemorate the arrival of the Pilgrim Fathers in the US. So there you go. I hope that clears up the confusion that I've noticed surrounding Thanksgiving. So, don't be surprised if, you know British people who don't celebrate it. They don't celebrate it. We don't have it. Right. Thanks very much for listening. Hope that clears up the confusion and that you learned something. See you next time. Bye. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Cara's Fast Natural English podcast. If you're listening on iTunes, Stitcher or SoundCloud, make sure you head to the blog to check out the activities to go with the episode. Also, if you haven't done so already, make sure you download my free e-guide to become a Leo listener and get the full transcript of each new podcast episode sent to your inbox. Thanks very much to podcastthemes.com for the theme music for this podcast. See you next time. Bye.